Hi, everybody. Ginzburg here, digital marketing expert, and I am very excited because today I have Hazel Moore, and Hazel is from First Capital, co-founder and chair of First Capital. How's it going, Hazel?
Yeah, it's going great. Thanks, Jean, and thanks for having me on the show. Super excited about this.
Yes, me too. We are doing a series of interviews with VCs and accelerators and anybody in the capital space as it relates to startups and technology companies. And of course, Hazel, you're involved in this space as well. So I would love to hear more about what you've been up to and how you've helped technology companies. So first, let's get started and tell us more about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I'm, as you said, the chair and co-founder of First Capital. We are a tech specialist investment bank headquartered in London with offices in Dublin and in Silicon Valley. And we work with growth technology businesses across Europe, really helping them on mergers and acquisitions, on exits, on private equity, and on growth fundraising. So for companies that have, great ideas, great tech, we're helping them get bigger, get better, raise money, go international, and deliver value at the end of the day.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that's an interesting story. What about yourself? How did you, what's your background in?
So I sort of fell into this really by mistake. I mean, I studied science at university. I always thought I was going to be a captain of industry. I was, breaking glass ceilings and being the CEOs of a multinational. And then through karate, actually, is how I got into this, because I went out to Asia and studied karate in Japan for a bit, and then found myself in Hong Kong. And I didn't have a job, and I thought, okay, what do I do in Hong Kong? Well, I'd better start working in financial services. So I wrote a lot of people lots of letters and said, please give me a job. And eventually somebody did. So I started right at the bottom as an equity analyst, but always focused on technology. That was my passion. That was what I was interested in. And after a number of years working in Hong Kong, which was an incredible time, there was just so much growth and activity in China, so much entrepreneurialism. I mean, it was really a formative experience for me. I came back to the UK and found, lo and behold, the internet was just happening, and it was all that excitement and all that growth and all that energy that I experienced out in Asia. And I was like, yes, I really want to do this, but I couldn't do it working in the city of London in sort of traditional finance. So I quit my job. I started working with entrepreneurs, with tech companies, helping them put together funding propositions, helping them raise money from investors. And First Capital was born out of that, really. There was, in those days, very few people were helping tech startups and tech entrepreneurs. And I just thought this is going to be big. This is going to be, something that I really want to do. And that was 20 years ago now. So we've been at it for a while. There have been a few ups and downs in the markets, but
yeah, of course. But that's amazing that you were kind of the pioneer when it came to investing in tech startups. I mean, 20 years ago, that was not really a thing, right? I mean, there weren't really that many tech startups to begin with.
It wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing at all. And, and so we've learned a lot over the years, actually. But what I think is incredible is that the tech ecosystem in Europe has just exploded. And we have so many amazing businesses, talented entrepreneurs, smart investors. And I look back at what it was like 20 years ago. It was nothing like this. And it makes me super excited.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And your story about karate, that is amazing. I would have never guessed. Do you still practice?
Yeah, I do actually. And, I'm quite a competitive individual. I like to compete. I love karate because at the end of a stressful week, there's nothing like going into the dojo and frankly, punching and kicking to relieve a bit of stress.
Well, that's true. There is some of that, stressful times can, do require some sort of outlet, whether it's karate. I do meditation, I go running. So because we all have our little things that we like to do to get the fumes out. But that's an interesting story that you were that you were in Japan practicing karate. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was really fun. It was really fun, and I still practice. I still enjoy it. It's how I keep fit and keep sane.
Oh, absolutely. So you worked over the last 20 years with, I'm sure, hundreds of companies, if not thousands of companies. So can you share a company that you helped gain investment that kind of stood out for you based on their mission and their vision?
Yeah, I mean, that's a super interesting question. Obviously, we have worked with loads. I think I'll share one with you where I feel, the mission really resonates with me personally. And that's a company called I2O Water. And what they do is they sell a software solution for helping, it's basically a smart utility system for water companies to reduce leaks, reduce bursts, reduce energy consumption, help increase asset life. And the reason that it resonates for me is because just if you think globally with what's happening, increasing population, increasing urbanization, there's massive stress on our natural resources, massive stress on water. And it's really not the kind of thing that you can just replicate. It rains or it doesn't rain. And the only way to get more water is you build a new reservoir, and that can have massive social implications, or maybe it's desalination, and that's incredibly expensive. And so you've just got to stop wasting the resources that you have. And I think that for me applies, really is a sort of a personal thesis for me in terms of, how I live my life. But so I just loved the fact that I2O Water, most water companies lose between 20 and 40% of the water on their network just on a day-to-day basis. And I just loved the fact that I2O could come in, could install its solution, and could massively reduce that loss of resource. So we helped them raise some money from a couple of European family offices. And today they are installed around the globe in utilities all over the place, from Africa to Asia to South America, and doing good and making money.
That's the best part, right? When you're doing good and making money. I think that is what we all strive to be, what we all strive to do, right, as entrepreneurs, is that it's not just about making the money, but it's also about helping the community, doing good, helping our resources, not wasting our resources. So absolutely. And of course, water is such a big thing nowadays, because, it is a resource that it's not endless, right? There is a finite amount of water in this world, and with populations growing, and I mean, it sounds like there's so much waste of water from just even utility companies.
It's incredible.
That I did not know, actually. That's something that I learned today that I did not know about at all. I mean, I know, consumers can waste water, but it's kind of a smaller scale, although I'm sure it adds up at the end of the day. But I didn't know that even utilities waste water, and that is very profound.
Things burst,
yeah,
right, somewhere, and it's and it could be anything in miles of pipework, and they don't know where it is. So it can lose tons and tons of water before somebody finds it.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting story about a company that you've helped in the past, and that's actually doing good as well in the community and around the world. So, and switching gears just a little bit, still talking about business, but being a digital marketing expert myself, I, of course, am very big on social media. Tell us how you've used social media to get your message across.
Yeah, so I mostly use, from a professional purpose, mostly use Twitter and LinkedIn. I do use Facebook, but not professionally. So Twitter for me is, a way for me to express myself, the things that I'm interested in professionally. So I use it to talk about deals that I think are interesting, about transaction trends, about what's going on in technology. And then the other thing I use it for is something that is a real personal passion of mine, which is about women in technology. And women in venture capital and private equity. And so I also use it as a platform to express my views on, things that are best practice and things that need to be improved, particularly around diversity. The other channel, LinkedIn, I use extensively as well, but less to talk about things probably, and more as a professional networking tool, to kind of find people that I wanted to connect with, and to reach out and to make that initial conversation, and then to take that offline and carry it on. So you're the expert. You'll probably say to me, well, you should be doing this, and these are all of the other things that you could do to improve, but that's what I currently do.
Oh, no, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here. Of course, I think that LinkedIn is a great platform for reaching out and starting conversations. Absolutely. I actually just interviewed the founder of Shaper. I don't know if you know the company Shaper. The founder is actually from France, and they created an app. Are you familiar with them?
I don't know them, actually. No.
Yeah. So that's actually an interesting app that you might want to look into using. So Shaper is it's an app on your phone that integrates with LinkedIn, and allows you to connect with individuals who are in your area, who are also, so it's basically kind of like dating, but only for professionals. So you can swipe right, swipe left, based on, if you're interested in connecting with this individual. And it's a great way to find partners, to find, mentors, investors. I mean, there's,
I am definitely going to check that out. That sounds great.
I'm glad you learned something too today. So I'm paying it forward. It's called Shaper, SHAPR. So it's just no E, just SHAPR. That was an interesting interview. You should check that out. It should be coming out soon with the founder of Shaper, where he talks about, basically what the platform is all about. But absolutely, I think that's a great way to use LinkedIn. And of course, Twitter is another platform that I think is an amazing way to get your message across. And I think that it's great that you're talking about women in technology. Of course, it's a topic that we all need to talk about, and I'm sure, a lot of improvement. I mean, I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of things that can be improved in that space. So that's great that you're getting the message across there as well. And then the last question before we wrap things up is, what are some of the key pieces of advice, or let's say 3 pieces of advice you would give to a startup who's looking to pitch to an investor or a VC or an accelerator?
Great question. So first thing, don't be boring.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. What we find is that an investor will typically make up their mind whether they want to invest or not within the course of the first meeting, and probably even within the course of the first 20 or 30 minutes. So that first impression really matters. And that ability to excite and enthuse and engage the listener and leave them wanting more. You've got to kind of draw them in. You've got to make them interested. But you want them saying, wow, that was fantastic. And I can really see myself identifying with that. So that's sort of, number 1, tell a great story, don't be boring. I guess number 2 is probably about, do your basic research. I'm always amazed at how many times, we're an advisor, right? We don't have a fund, but I'm amazed at how many times people reach out to me and say, are you interested in investing? And I'm like, I have a website, I have a profile, it's all public what I do. You haven't done your basic research to figure out why you're talking to me. So if you're a seed stage enterprise startup company, there's no point talking to a growth fund that's only investing in consumer. So it's really about make sure that you're making the best use of your time and the time of the person that you're talking to. Know why you're talking to them. Do your basic research. That's probably number 2. And then number 3, a bit more tactical really, but if you're in a process and you're talking to a bunch of investors, quite often they'll say to you, who else are you talking to? Never answer that question. Keep that competitive tension, keep people apart, because once you start telling people who you're talking to, they're either going to form a view on, depending on who you're talking to, does that mean you're exciting or you're not exciting, worse, or also they're going to ring them up and they're going to start to collaborate potentially, and that might reduce your ability to to create some momentum and to optimize the valuation and the terms. So, keep that competitive tension. If they say who else you're talking to, don't tell them. Keep it, and keep your cards close to your chest. That would be my third tip.
That is an interesting point. I mean, it makes sense now that you speak about it. Absolutely, because you don't want to reveal all your cards, right? Especially if you're trying to get funding. There's definitely some competitiveness going on between all of the funds or all the investors that you're trying to talk to. So that's a very interesting point that I would have never really thought about, but now it makes sense when you talk about it.
I mean, the cards are, it's usually a pretty one-sided conversation if you're pitching to somebody for money. So yeah, you've got to keep as many cards as you can.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Good advice for people who are looking to get funding, right? That's tactical advice right there. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And just before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask, how can our audiences get in touch with you or learn more about what you do?
So you can find me on Twitter, Hazel_Moore. You can find me on LinkedIn if you search for Hazel Moore, or you can email me hazel.moore@firstcapital.co.uk. Love to hear from you. Absolutely. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to get my contact details out there as well, Jean. Really appreciate it.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for being here. I think this was a wonderful interview. I learned so much, and I'm glad that I was able to share Shaper with you, and I hope that that's a platform that you use. I've been using it myself, and I think that's a great platform. But yeah, thank you for sharing your advice, because there's so many companies out there, of course, looking for funding, and this is, I'm sure, things that they can take back to their business right away. So absolutely, thank you for being here. And yeah, we look forward to having you back on the show sometime in the future.
That's great. Thanks so much for your time.